everyone. Welcome to our session on trade occupations and PR pathways. So, trade occupations are in huge demand in Australia at present, especially with the growing Australian economy. The future seems brighter for individuals in trade occupations. So, this session will be commenced by Mr. Kamaljeet Singh. Mr. Kamaljeet Singh is based in Aussie's Group Melbourne at the Clayton branch and is highly knowledgeable in this field and has assisted numerous candidates in obtaining their permanent residency in Australia. We'll take a few questions at the end of the session, but if you need your questions answered in a personalized way, please tune into a dedicated question and answer session at the end of today. That is 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Melbourne time. Our experts will be waiting to take your questions. So, Mr. Kamaljeet, we can start today's session.
Thanks, Dishant. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining, viewers. Hopefully, you'll be liking this session. And today, basically, I'll be focusing on trade occupation PR pathways. A lot of you guys might have already joined sessions by our educational councils yesterday, and you might have already, gained a lot of knowledge in regards to universities, college fees, IELTS requirements, or pathways for the PR yesterday itself. But today, myself, I'll be only focusing on trade occupations, and hopefully you will be liking this session. Now, again, in regards to question and answers, as my colleague has mentioned, that we'll be taking your question and answers once we have finished the session, so that the continuity and due to the time period, we are able to cover the topics. All right, so yeah, let's get started, guys. My name is Kamaljeet Singh. I'm a registered migration agent, and I work with Aussie's Group for nearly 3 years now, and I work in Aussie's Group Clayton branch. And as you are seeing on the screen, that we'll be focusing on trade occupations moving forward. Let me introduce you about Aussies. Aussies has been in the market from the last 10 years, and we are pretty professional in our sort of services we provide to people. Now, talking about services, our first and major focus we are going into is PT IELTS, which has given us sort of brand value in the market. Alongside, we do provide them with the migration assistant, also AET and review applications for if you have any visa refusals. We also help candidates in getting their education enrollments and career guidance, which is totally done by our qualified counselors all over Australia branch. Moving forward, we are, as I mentioned you previously, PT and IELTS coaching. My colleague will be posting a link for you. If you guys are interested in PT and IELTS coaching, we have introduced sort of a plan. Online booking can be done and online classes can be held by the Aussie's professional trainers. Moving forward, again, CCL coaching, a number of languages you can go on to with CCL coaching. So yeah, again, my colleague will be posting a link in QA sort of chat, so that if you are interested, you must at least watch the link and see how this link is going to help you in obtaining that 5 points extra for CCL. Moving on to health insurance, as guys, if you are on 485 or student visa or any temporary visa and your visa requires you to hold health insurance, a mandatory requirement, you must have held health insurance in that time period. So make sure, if you are looking for a competitive price in regards to health insurance, please do visit our website, Get My Policy. Again, the link's going to be posted by my colleague. Professional year program enrollment, as you guys are already aware, most of the candidates who have done bachelor's and master's sort of higher education, they are always interested in doing a professional year program in regards to securing their job, plus getting 5 points extra for general skill migration PR pathway. So yeah, we do provide professional year enrollments services as well. Now, as guys, these are only some of the services which are provided as Aussies. We do cover a lot of visa options in regards to child visa, parent visa, another general skill migration visa, employer sponsors visas. If you are planning to get further information on that, we have already posted on our Aussies Facebook links to join in regards to that particular sort of session. If you believe ID occupations, engineering occupations, the sessions are already running right now. Let's move on to trade occupations and prospective career options, fellas. So yeah, designation trade, why I want to do trade. A lot of people, they have been studying bachelor's, master's, and they believe that studying bachelor's, master's, especially accountants, are not leading them to a permanent residence pathway. Or if you are working as a tradie already and you believe that this occupation, is made up for you, and you have that kind of skill that you can further, enhance your career, plus you have got PR pathway options, then people start choosing, that kind of particular course. Talking about occupations, will be talking about chef and cooks, motor mechanic, metal fabricator, and welder. If you guys are not aware, metal fabricator is an occupation which deals with steel, which includes engineering, studying engineering drawings, cutting, sort of welding occupations as well. Wall and roof tiler, bricklayer, in normally Aussie slang, we call them as brickies. Carpenter, we call them chippies in Australia as an Aussie slang. Cabinet maker, painting trade worker, baker, and hairdressers. Now, these are some of the occupations. There are a lot of other occupations as well. We'll be considering if you are looking into trade occupations, which you believe, you can visit our office as well. Now, what are the differences? The only differences you might find in regards to is chef and cook, taking into consideration mostly people who are applying for PR as a cook, they only require certificate 3 in commercial cookery. People who are looking for PR pathway as a chef, they must do certificate 3 and 4. Now, there will be a lot of candidates who have done only certificate 4, but I believe if you've already done certificate 4 by itself, like I'm talking candidates who've been here like, more than 7-8 years when there was no certificate 3, you might be eligible as well. But again, we need to check your transcript. Another difference is skilled occupation list. There are a lot of occupations which have been mentioned on the left-hand side of the screen, like cook, baker, hairdresser. They does not come in under the MLTSSL. So basically, there are 2 lists which I'm focusing on the screen at the moment. Is ST as well, which is a temporary skill shortage list, and MLTS medium long term. So what does the difference between the list is? Because when immigration believes there is not much skill required for that particular occupation, they might switch the occupation from one list to another. Cook, baker, and hairdresser are in short-term skilled occupation list, and the rest of them are in medium long-term skilled occupation list. Plus, moving on to 190 and 491 state sponsor requirements, again with all the occupations, depending upon what kind of occupation you'll be choosing in regards to trade, there might be different requirements for sponsor. All right, now looking at when you are doing trade courses, guys, in regards to permanent residency pathway, you must have a skill assessment. So basically, what is a skill assessment? Skill assessment, if we are talking in regular terms, is a piece of document which tells the immigration what is your occupation. So if person is going through a PR pathway program, whether it's a general skill migration or employer sponsor visa, he must have a skill assessment. Okay, so in that case, every trade you have been chosen, you must obtain a skill assessment. Now, what are the skill assessment authorities in regards to trade occupations? First of all, we'll be talking about Trade Recognition Australia. You guys might already be familiar with this, authority, very popular authority, very strict authority, organizes a job ready program for international students. Okay, job ready program. Further, we'll be talking about the processes as well. Second, they have got another category, migration skill assessment, which we call is MSA. If you have enough sort of a work experience and you believe, that kind of experience might help you obtain skill assessment straight away from TRA, you can choose that pathway. VET-assess. VET-assess is another authorized authority which works for TRA, and it is responsible for skill assessment. I believe any candidates, now the VET-assess do not have all sort of occupations. There are certain occupations which VET-assess does in regards to skill assessment. So if you believe you have got 3+ years of work experience, which is minimum, again, depending upon whether you have Australian qualification or not, which we'll be discussing further, it might be a tricky situation with the VET-assess. Moving forward, William Inglis is only responsible, again, working under TRA for hospitality occupations. ATTC, now this one is a new one, Australian Trade Training Colleges. Previously, it used to be Victoria University. Now it has been taken over by ATTC, again, working under TRA. Similar guidelines, set guidelines have to be followed, strict guidelines have to be followed by the authorities when they are going in the process of skill assessment in regards to trade occupations. Now, let's move on to step number 1. Probably we'll be discussing about job ready program, which is one of the popular, most we can see mandatory program which students have to go through to obtain their skill assessment. Okay, guys, so job ready program is an employment-based skill assessment program for international graduate with an Australian qualification. Now, if you are an international student and you have done studies in Australia, you came here in Australia as an international student, if you've done trade qualification, as I previously mentioned, depending upon certificate 3 or 4, what kind of occupation you've done, you might be eligible for job ready program. You must have held the student visa as a primary applicant. Now, fellows, this one has to be pretty serious. We have been seeing candidates, where they are not aware about the situation that people sometimes, your spouse was studying masters, and then you're on TR, and then you believe then your partner can study on the TR and do job ready program. No, you must have held a student visa as a primary applicant, not secondary applicant. Okay, if you are planning to do a job ready program. So if you believe you are in that kind of situation, I'll probably suggest you to meet us, because it's no use if you are studying and you have never held a student visa as a primary applicant, because you won't be able to get your skill assessment done by TRA in regards to job ready program pathway. Okay, guys, so people who have processed the study has been completed, going into TRA, want to do job ready program, will be introducing you assessment steps which have been set up by the TRA. Number one is provisional skill assessment. It costs approximately 300 Australian dollars TRA application fees. Okay, now provisional skill assessment, what is that? Provisional skill assessment, guys. Now what happens is when you have completed your studies in trade and you are lodging your TR on the basis of trade occupation studies, you must obtain a provisional skill assessment. Now, provisional skill assessment, you might require certificate 3 or certificate 4, depending upon your occupation, plus 360 hours, which must be paid or volunteer if done by, your institute. And you can apply for provisional skill assessment. Now, a waiting period is approximate 60 to 90 days. And why do I need this skill assessment? This skill assessment is the first step of job ready program. So for this skill assessment, we need it to apply in 485 visa. So when you're lodging 485 visa, we require your provisional skill assessment in your occupation you have completed studies. Now, in any case of unfortunate reasons, your PSA has been refused. For example, nowadays authorities have gone very strict in regards to providing the documentation. Now, if you believe your documentations were not, that up to mark, or maybe, you've gone lazy, you never submitted that kind of ready to submit application, and they have ended up refusing your application, within 45 days, they have given us this luxury to review the decision that your PSA can be reviewed. Again, it's going to be extra $300, but guys, so make sure, sometimes, we have lodged TR and PSA all together. So we don't want to get into that kind of frustration, so that people, are not trying to, do the things properly, and they want to get the refusals for no, some kind of, stupid reason. So make sure you meet a registered migration agent when you are dealing with any kind of skill assessment, authorities. All right. So now I've lodged my PSA. I've got my PSA. I'm jumping onto TR, still on bridging visa. Can I do a job ready program? Step number 2. Yes, if your step number 1 has been finalized, basically you've got a decision, and a successful decision, you can go on to step number 2. Now, the question rises here, a lot of people might be thinking, can I claim prior employment? Yes, of course. Now, how does that work? Say, for example, I lodged my PSA on 1st of Jan 2021, and my PSA got approved on 1st of March 2021. Okay. Now, from 2nd of Jan 2021 until 1st of March, or until I'm applying my JRE application, I can claim that sort of 2 months. So maximum months given by TRAs, which we can claim, is 3 months. So yes, so any time after a PSA, lodgement application, when you lodge the application and you have been working continuously with the same occupation, your skilled occupation, you can claim 3 months. Applying for JRE, what is JRE? JRE is basically, your information of your employer, where you have an intention to completing your job ready program. So yeah, they'll be asking for your employer's ABN number, addresses, how many seatings there are. There are certain forms, you need to fill up what kind of duties, what kind of opportunities your employer is going to give you. So we'll be assessing that kind of form, and your employer needs to sign and provide it to TRA, and then your job ready program step number 2 starts. Moving forward, now then comes step number 3, which is JRWA, job ready workplace assessment, costing about $2,000. Now with job ready workplace assessment, fellows, make sure this workplace assessment is a very serious thing. Okay, the assessor might visit due to COVID restrictions, we've seen a lot of assessors were obtaining the assessments via online, virtual sort of questioning and answering and talking to your employers. But now COVID restrictions have been lifted up. We have seen that a lot of people have been invited to go practical assessment, and then the employer will go and visit you and see how you work. Approximate takes 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending upon what kind of job we are into, and they assess you accordingly. Now it's a big money, $2,000. So guys, make sure you are learning your skilled occupation, in a proper manner. How long it takes to go to step number 3? Approximate 8 to 9 months. We've seen that, once you've done 860 hours and plus with the same employer, we have seen TRA giving you, sending you an email that you must be applying for step number 3. Now comes the step number 4, which is job ready final assessment, $150. So once you have completed your 1 year plus you have completed your required 725 hours, which is at least to be completed within 1 year, then you will be applying for your final assessment. Now guys, according to TRA guidelines, step number 2, which is JRE, and step number 3, which is JRWA. As a registered agents, we cannot help you in this. We can guide you and educate you in this, but in regards to uploading the pay slips, in regards to uploading the forms, make sure you guys get a lot of information from your agent, because we are not authorized to act you on step number 2 and 3. Okay, when we are applying job ready program, the last one, the bouncing thing, funny thing, isn't it? Must have a full-time work rights for JRE, JRWN, and GRFA. The TRA is very serious on this matter. You must have full-time working rights when you are applying job ready program. Now the question arises, can those 3 months when I was claiming, my JRE prior employment, I was working 20 hours, is that okay? That's totally fine, because you had that intention that you have applied for 485. So yeah, TRA doesn't case. But if you're on a student visa for next 2 years and you are planning to do a job ready program, they might ask you a question. Okay, in certain occupations, they may or they may not, depending upon if your occupation is in critical skill list. But yeah, you must have full-time work rights if you are moving forward to GRE, GRWA, and GRFA. Okay, then. Now, guys, these are just tip and tricks I want you to little bit put an attention on when we are lodging 485 visa. Say, for example, your student visa is expiring and we are lodging 485 visa. Due to this COVID restrictions and this pandemic, 485 visa processing has gone approximate 8 months to 12 months. Okay, so we know that time period we will be on bridging visa A, allowing us to work full time. So make sure this bridging visa time period is not wasted and you obtain your sort of skill in regards to your job ready program. Now the question rises, can I work or can I do a job ready program bridging visa A of TR? Yes, you can, because you will be having full-time work rights. So when you are on a student visa and you have applied 485, you're on a bridging visa A, and we do know that the visa is going to take approximate 8 months or so. Let's start the job ready program so that the time is not getting wasted and we obtain our skill assessment easily. Number 2, as I previously mentioned, 3 months of prior employment can be claimed for JRE, when you are lodging the JRE application, no matter even if you have been working 20 hours per week. Third requirement, 1725 hours plus 1 year requirement is must. Now, what does that mean? There will be a lot of people saying that, okay, it's 1725 hours, I can do it within 1 week or maybe 6 months. 1 week doesn't make any sense. Within 6 months. So yeah, even if you do it within 6 months, still the assessing authority wants you to work in your skilled occupation for 1 year. Okay, so make sure, guys, don't rush it up, go slowly, and you go from there. Fourth bullet point, for some uncertain reason my employer is giving me hard time, or there are less hours, can I change my employer, or can I add another employer? Yes, TRA gives us an opportunity to put on 5 employers. So yes, guys, if you believe your employer is not giving you that kind of hours, that you think that 1725 hours might exceed more than 1 year, or some kind of that situation is rising up, you can add 2 employers and try to make up. Okay. Now, coming to the 5th bullet point, as you guys will already be aware, job ready program basically gives us 2 kind of assessments. Number 1 is your full scale assessment for migration purpose as your trade occupation, And number 2, your skilled employment points. Now with skilled employment points, because you have worked for at least 1 year in your nominated occupation, so you can claim 5 points. So keep that thing in mind, guys. The tips and tricks are basically using your bridging visa wisely. 3 months can be claimed. Do not just lodge PSA and wait for your PSA and TR. Be proactive and start focusing on your job ready program. Okay, 725 hours will be completing accordingly if you act in manner. All right, let's move forward. These were the tips and tricks. Moving forward into was the second sort of assessing authority. Now, same authority, but different pathway, trade recognition Australia. MSA means migration skill assessment. If you believe you are in a such kind of occupation and you have that kind of work experience that you do not want to do job ready program, your eligibility can be checked and we can act accordingly if you can obtain your skill assessment straight away without a job ready program. Now, this program is normally for candidates even from offshore, even if you are not in Australia and you have been working in trade for a certain amount of years, it is possible that you can obtain your skill assessment. Now, I'll probably going a little bit on to qualification or award which has been issued internationally, any kind of qualification and which is equivalent to Australian qualification, but it was not RPL sort of process. You will be requiring 3 years full-time work experience or equivalent part-time after the qualification was issued. Second one is if you have obtained an Australian qualification issued by RPL, it must be 3 years full-time or equivalent part-time after the RPL certificate was issued. Now, if your 6 years of full-time or equivalent part-time employment, which can be combination of employment and after RPL certificate, for example, as they've mentioned, 4 years employment before RPL and 2 years after the certificate was issued. So basically, they are requiring 6 years. So keep that thing in mind, guys, that when you are choosing this pathway, there are a lot of people, who are trying to obtain certifications by RPL. It's always better to consult a migration agent before, trying to decide what to do in regards to your qualification achievement or your skill assessment achievement. Moving on to second authority is VET-Assess. VET-Assess is pretty, known authorities with general occupations and trade occupations. Today, I'll be focusing only on trade occupations. Now, with VET-Assess, we have got 2 pathways. Number 1, you do not have Australian qualification. Number 2, you do have Australian qualification. Say, for example, there's someone, they believe that they have certain amount of, certain amount of time period they have worked in the skilled occupation, but they do not have a skill assessment. Pathway 1 follows for you. They require minimum 4 to 6 years of full-time work experience, depending upon whether it's a licensed trade or a non-licensed trade. So if you think you have that kind of work experience in trade occupations, even from offshore, like, apart from Australia, any other country, you should discuss this case with us and we might be able to help you in obtaining the skill assessment for that. Secondly, the pathway number 2, if for some reason, I came here as an, international student, I did my job ready program. Now, guys, job ready program gives you a skill assessment. Skill assessment is valid for 3 years. In those 3 years, if you are not able to do something, but you have been working in your same field, you need to obtain a new skill assessment because it's only valid for 3 years, your skill assessment. Yes. So in that case, we can choose pathway number 2. Okay, that you do have an Australian qualification plus you have been working 3 years full-time work experience is required. Okay, so guys, again, pathway number 1, you do not have Australian qualification, but you do have that kind of work experience, which you believe can be meeting the requirements of the VET-Assess guidelines, basically TRA guidelines. We can go from there. If you believe you have an Australian qualification plus that kind of work experience, then we can go into straight pathway number 2 and obtain that skill assessment. Note, 12 months of work experience in last 3 years. Now, guys, if you're looking, say, for example, 6 years, 4 years, 3 years, any kind of certain which is required, certain kind of work experience is required for the assessing authority. At least 1 year is required in last 3 years. So that doesn't mean like, I used to work as a hairdresser in 2007 until 2011. No, I know that's an, sort of a long years you've worked, but the assessing authority says that your combined hours are combined, years are fine, but you must have at least 12 months of work experience in last 3 years. So again, guys, if you believe you are that kind of a candidate, that who has got certain amount of work experience from overseas, and right in Australia, you're working in the same occupation, but you do not have an Australian qualification. It might be a nice pathway for you, and you can come and discuss the matter with us. Okay, how does VET-Assess works? VET-Assess works with basically two stages. Stage number one is evidence review. So the assessor will be given all the documentations in regards to your employment experience, skill, knowledge, what kind of qualifications you have held, your employer's reference letters, your payslip, bank statement, stating the amount of time period the work experience is required, and then they will be assessing it. And if your documents are approved, you will be moving on to stage number two, which is practical assessment / technical interview. Depending upon the occupation and the assessor's satisfaction, they might request for a practical assessment. In some cases they do. Now, what is a practical assessment? They might give you a lot of tasks, like workplace assessment of job ready. They might be asking you to do some kind of task which they believe they want to check you on. And then if you are able to clear those tasks, in regards to your work, there are chances that you'll pass the interview and they'll give you the skill assessment. A technical interview is basically a series of questions have been asked in regards to safety, in regards to, workplace requirements, in regards to how do you work, what are your duties, and how do you manage yourself as a skilled worker. So if assessor is pretty confident that you meet all those kind of requirements, even when you are, say, for example, in India or any other countries, depending on where the countries, if they do have authorities assessing, you can do this technical interview as virtual we are doing right now. Okay, all assessments are held in English and no interpreter is allowed. This is very serious. We've seen a lot of people, they might be having 10 years, 15 years work experience, but as you're in Australia, English is our first language. Okay, so any assessing authority or any kind of, occupation we are assessing, English must be mandatory. Now, it doesn't require any kind of bands or such thing, as long as you can understand the assessor. But again, in regards to band requirement, further your skill, after your skill assessment, for PR, you might need English as well. So yeah, assessing authorities, they do not require, no interpreter is given to you. So you have to make sure that you work accordingly and you get your skill assessment done. Okay, so guys, those was basically we focused on the assessing authority. Okay, we spoke about job ready program, we spoke about VET-Assess, and we spoke about straight PRA migration skill assessment pathways as well. Now, this would be the favorite topics of tradies, I reckon. PR for tradies, general skill migration pathway 189, 190, and 491. First, we'll be talking about eligibilities. You must have competent English. What does that mean? You must have at least 6 in each in English. Number two, you must have a full skill assessment in certain occupation, depending upon which visa we are applying for, 189, 190, and 491. Number three, an applicant must have at least minimum 65 points, combining state points. Now, as we have mentioned at the bottom, if you're applying for 190 and you hold only 60 points and you meet the requirements, state might be helping you with the 5 points. Okay, for 491, state or family sponsors might be helping you with the 15 points. So minimum points are required 65. Now, guys, when we are focusing on 189 or 491 family sponsors, the minimum points we do understand are 65, but the invitations given by the minister does not come on 65. So don't just go by think, okay, I've met 65 points. Can I apply for PR? No. 189, 190, 491. Okay, they are basically invited by ministers. You are invited by immigration in normal language to apply for the visa. Okay, so 65 points would be enough, I would say, for 190 and 491 state sponsor, depending upon your trade occupations, but not for 189 and 491 family sponsor. Okay, let's talk about a little bit more about skill lists. First one is MLTSSL medium and long-term strategic skill list. The MLTSS has been replaced by skilled occupation list as well from 19th of April 2017. Applicants must have an occupation on MLTS if applying for 189 and 491, as I previously mentioned. Now, because they are straight, 189 is straight PR plus medium and long-term strategic list is basically high demand occupation list. Others Group website is always up to date, and they give us sort of information on which states are updated. My colleague will be posting a link if you are interested in studying your particular trade in regards to which states are open. So keep yourself updated where the states are open and what are the requirements. Then we can go from there. Okay, short-term skilled occupation list are sort of list which might not have that kind of occupations which are in medium long-term list now, because as the word says, they are short-term. You might be eligible for 190 skill nominated visa, which is state sponsor, or 491, which is again state sponsor regional area. Okay, easier way, guys. There will be a lot of occupations. A lot of people might be watching this, and you might have different sort of trade occupation. It's always good to have an up-to-date information, which you can go to. Just fill in ausisgroup.com, and we have posted there already a link on the left-hand side, where you can search your occupation and which state is open, which is closed, what are the requirements, and you can stay up to date. All right. Any person who is applying for general skill migration pathway, points required for minimum is 65. As I've previously mentioned, guys, 65 points itself for 189 would not be enough. Now, guys, I would also like to mention you, since March 2020, immigration due to this COVID pandemic have not invited a lot of professions apart from medical profession people, or professions which have been helping to manage COVID pandemic. Okay, so we do assume in regards to 189 trade occupation, might not be that kind of, good news. So try to plan yourself in regards to 190 and 491 visas in the manner of state sponsor, because there are not such hard requirements for state when it comes to 190 or 491. But if you are proactive and you know the requirements of the state, and you believe that, okay, I finished my studies, I'm going to lodge TR, okay, and I'm on bridging visa A, let's see what I can do in that particular time period. So guys, plan your things accordingly, so that when you are moving forward in regards to state requirements, time is not wasted, your money is not wasted. Basically, if you are sort of studying in such kind of a state where you believe there are not such kind of the options promising for trade occupations. Okay, a little bit more about visas. 189 is a permanent PR, 190 is a permanent PR, 491 is not PR, it's basically a pathway to PR. It's a temporary stage. 5 years of visa is granted to you, and once you have lived, worked, or studied basically, and earn 53,900 for each year for at least 3 years, any of those 5 years, you might be eligible for 191. Okay, so moving forward, we'll be talking about state sponsors. Now, a lot of tradies, wants to know about what kind of state would be best for them. We'll be discussing a lot of states. Let's talk about visa options for New South Wales. Now, guys, if you have been hearing around, New South Wales has been a very sort of hot topic in regards to state sponsor visas. Okay, they have invited a lot of candidates in IT sector in regards to 190 straight PR with 90 to 95 points. Okay, including 5 points from the state. No invites have been given to tradies till date. So guys, if you are in New South Wales and you believe you are holding high points, like something like 80, 85, there might be a high chance that, New South Wales might invite tradies. But again, it's immigration. We don't know how they work in regards to inviting people. There's, sort of a circuit lockdown now, but always there's an option in regards to, if you're in New South Wales, I'll probably ask you to shift to regional New South Wales. But because for 491 regional, they only invite with 65 points, including 15 points, plus you must meet the requirement of the state. The state requirement major last time they said were 2 years of study in regional and 12 months of work experience. Now, I would like to give you a tip again on 491 regional New South Wales. Now, they require 12 months of work experience, but we have seen a lot of invites coming for candidates who have shown their commitment, and they have only been working, like, say, for example, 2 weeks, 3 months, but the commitment was already there. They provided a lot of supporting evidence, and they have been given the invite for 491. So if you believe you are that kind of candidate, your visa is expiring, there might be a high chance if you can find a job in your skilled occupation trade, and look for 491 regional option. Okay, then moving forward on to Victoria. Now, if we are tradies, we don't like this state. Okay, this state has always given us hard time since March 2019, when this job offer story came up, and then this COVID kicked in. For some reason, Victoria has gone this ridiculous, sort of inviting only medical profession people. I do understand, a lot of tradies have been frustrated. They have done their job ready program properly. They have obtained the points. They have been living in Victoria for last 3 to 4 years. So, but still, guys, we are not aware, sometimes the assessor or the assessing authorities, how do they work? How do they judge? Plus, COVID was affected more in Victoria. They are only inviting medical profession. In regards to 190 state nomination, as it's written on the screen, is based on the registration of interest. Of course, you lodge an ROI. Okay, you must be minimum living and working in your nominated occupation for 6 months. I'll probably suggest if we are in a trade occupation, living in Victoria means Melbourne itself would not be a better option, because we do understand they are inviting a lot of medical profession people. So if you are in Melbourne doing job ready program, that might not be a very good news for us. So I'll probably ask you to shift to regional, because what is happening with regional, they are requiring that you must lodge an ROI. Applicant must be staying and working for 3 months in regards to medical, health, research, and should be supporting Victoria's economy on this. Now, this Victoria's economy, again, they have not given any kind of such definition. What do they mean by Victoria's economy recovery? But we are expecting, let's wait until July. What are the updates? And if the state is not going to help us out, is no point living in that state if there is no PR. If you are that kind of candidate that who is very desperate and dedicated in regards to PR, I assure there are a lot of us. So staying in Victoria, guys, we are into that sort of comfort zone that we have got good jobs and we are settled down. But again, if the state is not going to give us PR, it's always a better option that we choose option number 2 and start discussing about states like New South Wales. Okay, moving on to state number 3 is Tassie. Tasmania, they require for 1902 years of study or 6 months of full-time work experience. Okay, now Tasmania has also gone very strict with Section 48 candidates. So guys, if you're a Section 48 candidate, this type of state might not be a very good option. So yeah, probably take your options from there, whether you want to go to Tasmania, because if you are a Section 48 candidate, Section 48 guys, just in a regular language, if your visa has been refused on shore and you have lodged 80, you might be affected by Section 48. 491 regional, 1 year of study and 1 year of stay in Tasmania. Of course, the study must be in Tasmania. 6 months of full-time work experience, not in your nominated occupation. Okay, but if you're not, it must be any other skill. It can't be cleaning or working, in like shopping malls or supermarkets. Doesn't work. If you're working any other kind of skill for 6 months, you do have a skill assessment, you do have minimum points, you might be eligible for Tasmania. Moving on to Northern Territory, 2 years of study is required in Darwin. NT, not Darwin, 6 months of work experience is required in nominated occupation in NT. Okay, 491, 2 years of study in NT. Now, what with NT, guys, if you have studied in Victoria, there are very less chances that they'll give you 190, because we have seen a lot of cases that where the candidates that studied in Victoria, the commitment is not there, and you have gone to Darwin, they might give you option for 491. Okay, but if you believe that, okay, if not 190, 491 is good, I'll probably suggest Darwin would be a better option as well. South Australia state nomination 190 and 491 is has been introduced basically on a couple of caveats. What does that mean? They have been introduced different occupation with the requirements of different kind of work experience duration required to apply for 190 or 491. At the moment they are closed, but we are expecting in July that they might be introducing for the trade occupations, how much of work experience is required. So probably stay up to date on this one. Queensland, 6 months of full-time work experience is required in nominated occupation in Queensland plus job offer. Now, Queensland was basically focusing on priority skilled occupation list. We may see some changes in July in regards to 491, 3 months of full-time work experience in your nominated occupation in Queensland, job offer letter in regional, seems sort of same like we can say like Victoria. ACT has been a very hot topic with IT candidates. They have been inviting people from 50 to 85, 90 points in regards to, a metrics. So it works with the metrics. So minimum 6 months of work experience is required for 190, minimum 3 months for 491. And now the question is it any occupation? Yes, any occupation, but make sure, guys, you have to work your points through metrics Canberra as well. You know, the Canberra metrics. You can't just go there and start working. You should always set up your points, how much you have got in English, you know, how long have you been living there, what is your spouse doing. So if you are that kind of candidate that you are married and your spouse might be able to score 7 each, I'll probably suggest ACT might be a better option. Western Australia, 2 years of study in Western Australia with 6 months of full-time work experience in Australia, and you can show an employment contract actively operating from last 12 months. There would be possibilities for 190. Now, this candidates, if you are in Western Australia, studied there would be high chances for 190 or 491, 2 years of study in Western Australia with 6 months of full-time work experience in nominal occupation. Moving forward, guys, this visa which we are talking on to now, before we go on to this visa, let's make a conclusion in regards to trade occupations. So if you are that kind of candidate who is planning to study, I'll probably suggest you to go to South Australia. Okay, if you're that kind of candidate who has completed their studies and are planning to do job ready program, or you must do job ready program, I'll probably suggest you to wait until July and see what Victoria comes up with their requirements. If you're in Victoria, if not, we might have to, move into New South Wales regional or South Australia. Okay, with temporary skills shortage visa, 482 employer sponsors. These are the visas where you believe you have an employer who is more than happy to sponsor you. At least 2 years of full-time work experience or equivalent part-time work experience is required for 482 visa. As you already know, guys, for trade occupations undergraduate work stream, only 18 months of TR is given to you by the department, but 18 months plus the time period you have been on bridging visa, if you have been working with the same employer and employer believes you believe that employer wants to sponsor you and he can meet the eligibility, he might sponsor you for 482 visa. If you need further information for 482 visa on focusing only on 482, we might have another session going on. You can register yourself online right now on Facebook. Occupation for 482 can be STSOL. 2 plus 2 means you will get 2 years for STSOL, and then you can increase for 2 years further. But if your occupation like is in MLTSSL list, you might be getting it for 4 years. Occupation on MLTSSL are eligible for medium 4 years. Transition to PR after 3 years. Now for 482 visa, guys, basically if you are on a 482 and the visa is for 4 years and you have worked with the same employer for 3 years, you might be straight eligible for 186 under TR stream. If you believe you already have 3 years full-time work experience and there's an employer more than happy to sponsor you, you might be able to apply for straight 186 direct entry. So again, employer sponsors are pretty, serious visa nowadays. We are calling it like employers trend nowadays. We have seen a lot of occupations being added on, including accountant, in regards to employer sponsors. So if you believe there's an option, just keep an eye on it. All right, as I mentioned, 186 direct entry TRT, 3 years full-time work experience. Eligible for subclass 186 via direct entry, working 3 years full-time on 482 with same employer TRT. Requirements: you must be under 45. Skill assessment is mandatory for direct entry. Competent English is required, means minimum 6 in each in English. 494. Now this is a new visa which has sort of replaced 187. Applicant must have 3 years of full-time work experience in last 5 years in regional. So if you have been living and working in regional and you have an employer who is in regional actively operating, he might be able to sponsor you. Given that you might be requiring a skill assessment, you must be 45 years of old. Now, if you have been working with the same employer for 3 years and or other employer in regional, and one employer sponsors you, and if you have worked with him for 3 years, you can further apply for 191 skilled regional PR straight away. Importance of work experience, guys. Why? Now, we always suggest candidates that you must be working in your nominated occupation. Okay. Why is that? Because working in your occupation can open a lot of pathways. Plus, it's a good money in trade, especially if you are in construction industry. You can use your experience towards your skill points. Now, as you in regards to skill point, 1 year you get 5 points. Australian experience we are talking about. For 3 years you'll get 10 points. So there are chances that if you have spent a lot of time period in Australia but you have been working in the same trade occupations, there are chances that you might be getting high points. It can also help you to apply for a state nomination, of course. In regards to state nomination, as I've mentioned previously, that there are a lot of states who are focusing on candidates who are committed to that kind of state. There are chances for 190 state. You can use that kind of experience for 482, 494, 186. So guys, make sure if you're studying trade, do not do any kind of odd jobs. Try to find a job in that particular trade where you are studying. It would be more beneficial for us in future. Let's talk a little bit more about Victoria. 190 is currently focusing on health sector. Victoria 491 health sectors / economy recovery, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so if you are in Victoria, guys, just stay updated for July. And there might be a crucial decision to make in July, because if this state is not going to sponsor us, it's no point living in that kind of state. How they have invited people, 69 of them which were invited, 69% were holding Australian qualification. 6 months again, guys, sort of information which assessing authorities give on the websites, is pretty sort of political stunts, normally I call them, because we haven't seen that kind of invites. Okay, there are a lot of seats allocated, which we'll be talking on the next slide. Okay, in regards to the number of Australian qualified migrants well regarded by Victorian employers are able to meet other eligibility for Victorian nomination, potential applicants, including those who have done PhD awarded by Victorian institution, are encouraged to submit an ROI if they meet eligibility for 190 and 491. So yes, it seems like Victoria had invited a lot of people who have done PhDs and sort of research work in masters, and they've got an employer who are happy to give them a job, and they have got 190 or 491 respective visas. Now, total quota for Victoria was for 190, they were given 2,500 seats. For 491, 1043 seats. Out of that, final state 999 invites, nomination approval 196 for 491, which is a very ridiculous figure. I don't know what they're gonna do with all other seats which were pending. Now it's today's already like 30th of June, and those seats are gonna get wasted. So yeah, guys, if you're in Victoria, you better start thinking about how you're gonna get PR. So we have another options as well. It's always better to discuss these options with your migration agent. All right, as it mentioned, 67% was health profession. Of course, they have given health profession, so you will be acting accordingly. For 2021, 189 family, 189 and 491 family, we have seen received 1690 invites for 189, and we have got 743 invites for 491 family. Now, invites and seats are again different, guys. So don't go by seats when people hear news. Oh, these many seats have been given to this visa. Oh, this happened. No, it doesn't. The seats are there, but that's the maximum which has been given to the the immigration. But how many invites have been given? That is the major figure. So keep yourself updated in regards to that. Current trends which would be beneficial for us if you are in Australia. Consequently, since COVID, the demand has been increased to economy recovery. Most of the states are focusing on, especially Victoria. So there are chances there would be a lot of trade occupations, jobs out there. Okay, so make sure you find a proper job in regards to your skilled occupation, and obtain your skill as employment points. Again, there's going to be no international travels, which might be beneficial for us, which is sort of happy and sad news for depending upon what kind of candidate you are. So travel restrictions are still in place, which gives us an opportunity to get PR in coming at least 1 year. Now, this is just a little bit of data given by Australian Education Department. Okay, so in March 2021, they have seen that students have decreased by 17% negative, that they do not want to come to Australia, or you can say Australia closing their borders has forced the students not to come here. In regards to top 5 countries, we have seen China is 29%, 17% India, 8% Nepal, 4% Vietnam, and 3% Malaysia. Enrollments, still 57% candidates are doing higher education, which is bachelor's or master's. 34% is VET. Okay, so if you believe, guys, you want to choose further pathway, I'll probably suggest you. Still, a lot of candidates are going into higher education, but trade would be a very sort of skipping pathway for straight PR. Now, available vacancies in Australia. As per JobSearch website, chef cook more than 7,000, metal fabricator 3.9, painter 2.7, baker 1.0K across Australia. These are just figures, how many jobs we have been searching on the website. Occupation ceilings for 189,491. Chefs at 2,256 seats, 0 invited, because 189 we have always seen invites on 90 points is practically not possible for a chef to go on 90 points. Painting, 3,000 seats, but again 0 were invited. Okay, electrical engineering draft person, 1,000 seats, less than 20 invited. Telecommunication technical specialist, 1,000 seats, less than 20 invited. Civil engineer draft person and technician, total 1,000, less than 20 invited. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. This was sort of trade occupation, we can call sort of seminar for us. Okay, we do understand you might have a lot of questions for me or in regards to some of the topic. We'll be doing a Q&A session from 5 to 6, I think, and we'll be answering a lot of questions for yourself. But yeah, we still have, I think, probably 10 minutes. If you have any questions in regards to the seminar which we have gone through. And please do leave us a review for all this review. So how was my presentation? What are the topics you want me to discuss on? And then we go on from there. And I'll probably hand over to Dishant if we have any further information to share with candidates, or if there were any questions, because I was not able to see them.
So thank you guys for this session, and thank you Kamaljeet for this informative session. And there was a lot of data for the students that can help them. Guys, if you have any questions, just put it in the chat box. So we have one question which is regarding the automotive course. So he's asking any views on the automotive course?
Okay, see, in regards to automotive, okay, if you are a candidate that who is currently doing a job ready program, okay, I'll probably, and you are in Victoria, I'll probably suggest you to wait until July update. A 491 option might exist, okay, and if that option is not for you, we might have to shift to some other state. If you have already completed job ready program, I'll probably suggest you New South Wales 491 or South Australia might be a better option.
Thank you. So we have another question from Prasad. He's saying that studying a trade course in regional on 485 visa, could you claim 5 points?
Okay, so in regards to 5 points, okay, the question rises here. My study must be at least 2 years. You must be living and studying in regional. So yeah, if you have lived and studied in regional for at least 2 years, even on 485, you can still claim 5 points for regional. But see, again, if you are doing a trade course in regional, which I assume, might be Tasmania or South Australia, depending upon where you are, you might be already straight eligible for 190 or 491.
Thank you. We have one more question from Ayushi. She's asking, what about architectural building and surveying technician in Victoria?
See, Ayushi, in Victoria, as I've previously mentioned, Victoria is sort of ridiculous state when it comes to inviting people. Okay, and we have seen they are constantly focusing on, health sector, and everybody is getting frustrated. Why always these nurses and pharmacy technicians? But the thing is, okay, you've mentioned you've been working full time for the last 8 months. So I assume you lost your ROI for Victoria and you were not invited, of course, because they are focusing on health sector first and then other sort of occupations which are supporting the health sector. Okay, so in our sort of scenario, I'll probably suggest 491 might be a better option, but again, wait until July. And if this state does not give us that kind of, news that is beneficial to us, because you've already been there 8 months, if you have enough time, 482 employer sponsor might be a better option for us in future. Okay, so another one is Dishant, we have got, I am doing an automotive course certificate 3 in Melbourne. Should I keep on doing it or I move? I'll probably suggest you move to regional, my friend, because Melbourne is a very nice state, okay, which looks nice, but doesn't help too many people. So I'll probably suggest you, again, because if it was chef or cook, I might give you a chance of remaining in Melbourne, and you are currently doing certificate 3. So that means like a lot of studies still left. I'll probably say regional, South Australia or maybe Tasmania would be a better option if you can, proceed your studies from there. Okay, so moving on to, okay, Ayushi is saying thanks. Yeah, thanks for joining, Ayushi. We do hope, Victoria might give us some good news. Okay, Balkaran, Prasad has got a question. How do you see the prospect of engineering technologies for 189? Very questionable, Prasad. If you are holding 95 points, I'll probably say yes. But again, political stunts will kick in. All these, what they call this, they give all these occupation in a PMSOL list and try to, give you sort of direction. But I don't think so 189, but I'll probably say 190. Victoria can be an option if you're working in Victoria. If you're outside Victoria, see the requirement of particular state you are living in. Okay, Balkaran Singh is saying, I have done my 6 months job ready program in Melbourne. Should I move to? I'll probably say that yes, Balkaran, that would be a very nice sort of move because you are already focusing on, sort of 491. Now, depending upon whether you're doing your job ready in motor mechanic or cookery, I have to double check that. Okay, I'll probably suggest let's wait until July might. Okay, let's see how Victoria comes up with the requirements and then we go from there. Okay, MS says, what are the chances for family sponsor visa with 90 points for, okay, done. Oh, you've done automotive and you're holding 90 points with family sponsor, high chances might. But again, is immigration gonna invite us or not? That is the question, because for last 1 year, they're only inviting medical profession people, and now all these stupid lockdowns have kicked in again in different states. Things are going up and down. So again, MS, I'll probably suggest you let's start thinking for option number 2 as well. If not Queensland, basically family sponsor is family sponsor. Okay, Prasad, yeah, thanks for joining, mate. Okay, Ayushi, one more question, please. I am already in regional Victoria. Do you think I should now go to regional New South Wales if nothing favors? See, Ayushi, the thing is, the only stupid thing I like about Victoria is they will ask you to lodge an ROI for 6 months and then you 6 months keep waiting and then they refuse it. Isn't it nice? Okay, so you think about it. What do you think? You want to invest that kind of money and time in this state and wait and wait and wait? Yeah, always all this is staying up to date and informing clients, when we are getting invites in certain occupations, the data gets shared, which is internal data. Okay, we do share data. If you believe that your occupation is not getting invited, not many invites are coming, I don't think so living in Victoria would be a best option. It's always better you move to some other state which you believe would be more beneficial. Okay, so we have got Binod currently in 482 visa from my spouse and studying carpentry. Can I go for job ready program? Okay, Binod, the question rises here, as I previously mentioned, if you want to do a job ready program, you must have held a student visa as a primary applicant. Is it understood? Yeah. So you must have held a student visa as a primary applicant. So if you haven't held, you can't do it. If you have, then you can do it. Okay, Gautam Mehta says, which state is better for job ready in carpentry? Because I'll probably say South Australia, Gautam. South Australia would be a beneficial state because it's a growing state. Okay, and it would be a lot more easier. There are a lot of what do you call this, building companies, showing up in South Australia. I'll probably suggest you doing job ready program in carpentry in South Australia might lead you to straight 190. Okay, so we have got Ayushi Mehra. Yeah, thank you, Ayushi. So yeah, that was probably Dishant seems like questions, and hopefully, guys, before we wrap it up, thanks for joining again. Now, in regards to if you have certain questions, you can drop your email addresses down on the chat, and our colleagues will be following you up. In regards to visiting our offices, we have offices all over Australia. If you're in Melbourne, I'm personally sitting in Clayton branch. Okay. Certain topics might not be covered because 1 hour sometimes is not enough, and you believe your case must be discussed face to face. Our first consultation is free, so you can probably come and visit us, and we can take the case over from there. And do probably leave us some feedback, might. Okay, that is a great help. Sort of a genuine feedback must be left so that we can improve and sort of improvise what is more beneficial for improving our customer service in future.
Thank you so much, guys, for attending this session. And don't miss out on the reviews. I've pasted a link on the chat window. Also, we have multiple sessions going on. I've put the link in the chat window, and then you can directly go to that sessions. So I think that's all. So
That's
thank
all
you
from my
for
side,
the session.
guys. Have a
Thank you so
nice
much.
day, and we'll probably meet you one day face to face.